After multiple hospital workers became severely ill after operating on Gloria Ramirez's body, she became known as the Toxic Lady. Gloria was just 31 years old and lived in Riverside, California with her husband and 2 children. But at around 8 p.m. on February 19, 1994, Gloria was rushed to Riverside General Hospital after experiencing heart palpitations. She could hardly breathe and was delirious, and she also had late-stage cervical cancer. The doctors ended up having to remove her shirt so that they could defibrillate her heart, but they noticed Gloria's entire body was covered in this strange, oily sheen. The hospital staff also noticed this strong, fruity, garlicky odor coming from her mouth. And when a nurse tried to draw Gloria's blood, she noted that it smelled like ammonia and also saw manila-colored particles floating in her blood. It was at this point that nurses started to either faint or develop severe breathing problems. And when one nurse woke up, she wasn't able to move her arms or legs. All of the patients and staff in the ER were then immediately evacuated to the parking lot, while a skeleton crew in hazmat suits stayed behind to try and save Gloria's life. But sadly, Gloria passed away that night. In total, 5 hospital workers had to be hospitalized as a result of being exposed to Gloria's body, and 1 remained in the ICU for 2 weeks. California's Department of Health was then called in to search the ER for any signs of poisonous gas, toxins, or any other foreign substances, but nothing was found. This is when the media dubbed Gloria as the Toxic Lady because nobody could get within 2 feet of her without experiencing severe medical issues. A little more than a month after Gloria's death, a more thorough autopsy was conducted by a team in hazmat suits and in a sealed-off room. And from that, they found a large amount of dimethylsulfone in her blood and tissues. Dimethylsulfone does occur naturally in the body as it breaks down certain substances, but it normally disappears within 3 days. But there was so much in Gloria's system that it still showed up at 3 times the normal amount 6 weeks after her death. After investigating, authorities ruled Gloria's official cause of death as heart failure due to kidney failure brought on by her late-stage cervical cancer. And after months of investigating, authorities officially concluded that the hospital staff actually only suffered from mass hysteria brought on by the fruity, garlicky odor. The reasoning for this was because despite the medical issues these workers experienced, they all had normal blood tests after the exposure. But theory spread that this body cream was actually responsible for everything. The ME found that Gloria would use this cream all over her body in hopes of curing her cancer. Back in the day, this cream was really popular and thought to relieve pain. But in 1965, medical science ruled this cream as a toxic substance, as it could ruin your eyesight. After this, you could only get it in a hardware store as a degreaser. When this cream, or DMSO, is exposed to oxygen, it converts to dimethyl sulfate. If this gets into your body, it can cause convulsions, delirium, and paralysis, which is exactly what the medical staff experienced. This cream would explain the oily sheen all over Gloria's body and the fruity, garlicky smell coming out of her mouth. But of course, this is just a theory. Her family blames the hospital for Gloria's death because of their rocky history with gas leaks and ventilation problems, which if you look into is actually really concerning. But in the end, nothing has ever been proven, and this case remains a mystery.
Julio Ramirez was enjoying a night out in Hell's Kitchen back in April, and then hours later,
him and his friends decided to go to this place called Hell's Kitchen. A lot of people go here to have fun, have a good time. It's a place located in New York. So this one particular night at around 7 p.m., he goes to this place with his friend Carlos. They will bar hop and go to different places, but then Julio takes this one specific picture. Then all of a sudden, him and his friend separated. Julio sends Carlos a text message, "Where you at?" Carlos said, "I'm inside." Julio said, "I'm outside." Julio told him, "Come out." I don't know around this time if Carlos wasn't even paying attention to his phone. They was trying to look for each other but could not find each other. But an hour later, Carlos said, "I'm home." "Where you at?" Carlos tell him, "Come to my place," but never receives a response back from Julio. Later that morning, still no reply. It's been a little while now. Carlos sent another message saying, "What happened? I thought we left together." He texted, "I woke up and I was like, Julio, and you wasn't even there." But when Carlos looked at his phone, he seen that Julio seen his message, but he never replied. Things get a little strange at this very moment. Carlos decided to look back at the messages and he realized around 3 a.m. Julio stopped sharing his location. Then another one of his friends, he also stopped sharing his location with. He also stopped replying to her as well. Then that's when the messages went from blue to green, meaning that his phone is off, it probably have died.
This is a picture of Velvin Nungari Kenyanjui. For those of you who don't know this story, as I'm sure many of you do not, Velvin was a young 24-year-old Kenyan girl who was found with 3 spinal cord fractures and a ruptured cervix last year on the 24th of April at one of the hotel rooms in Nairobi, Kenya. Now, you're obviously wondering what had happened to Velveen for her to be able to sustain 3 fractures on her spinal cord. Now, here is the story. Now, on the 24th of April, as you'll see here, Velveen arrived with a man. Her and the man were obviously booed up, they were kissing, they were having a good time, and they arrived at this hotel, booked a hotel room, and went into the hotel room. Now, this was the evening of the 23rd, and this was the last time that Velveen would be able to stand up with her own right. And this was the last time that Velveen or the man would be seen for the rest of the night. The night passed very peacefully. However, the next day at 5 a.m. on the 24th of April 2021, cleaning services arrived and they went up to all of the rooms, obviously to clean because that's their job. They expected everybody to have been checked out by this point, but as they entered the room that Velveen had rented with her said man, they found a very disheartening scene. Velveen was laid there on the ground naked and she was wailing, just letting out soft wails in pain. Obviously, the house cleaning went downstairs, quickly informed the management of what they had found and what they had discovered, and the management made a call to the hospital. Immediately after calling the hospital, they made a quick call to the police, and the police investigators were on their way as soon as the ambulance to collect Velveen was also on their way. Now, the ambulance did arrive first, so they collected Velveen and Velveen was taken to hospital for immediate care because it was that severe. As the police officers arrived on the scene, naturally their first question is, was this girl with anyone? What happened to her? How did she arrive? What's going on? And as it was in the morning, the people who were at the reception the night before were not the same people who were at the reception in the morning. So naturally they told them, you know what, we're not the same people, we weren't here, but what we can do is we can show you the CCTV. Now the CCTV footage would show Velveen arriving with her male friend, as you've seen, and her and the male friend booked the reception and they weren't seen for the rest of the evening. They identified the male friend as Joseph Njenga Muremi. Police would get in touch with Joseph, and Joseph would tell the police that he in fact had checked out the previous night before at 10 p.m. So he was saying that he didn't even sleep in the same room as Velveen. However, according to the people who were walking around cleaning, they said that they had actually seen Joseph sneaking out of the hotel room that same morning. So Joseph was lying. As they were questioning Mr. Joseph, the police officers would receive the information that Velveen had actually passed on from her injuries the 3 fractures to her spinal cord, her ruptured cervix, and on top of that, it was also reported that Velveen had bodily fluids consistent with sexual assault. Now, as soon as the police received this information, so did the media houses, and they let the Kenyan people know of exactly what happened to Velveen. Now, you would have thought that many people would band together and acknowledge that this is not right, this is not how people should be treating each other, etc. But the saddest part is that the Kenyan public was actually divided as to what they should think with regards to Ms. Velveen's murder. Many of the Kenyan public came out with comments like this.
Your crushes here act natural. Me. That's why I had to unfollow my uncle, making a deposit at Taco Bell. Man's making more than that. When a girl sees me. You got drugs in the car. Go ahead, step in here, officer. Go ahead. Tired of hearing I'm thirsty. Me, get out of my room. Siblings, I'm not in your room. When you have to teach your kids that family means nothing in Uno, that should be ruining friendships. When the only thing you explore is a refrigerator, then be my favorite adventures. What's he trying to do? Watch his step. Bro's running out of time. Girls on Insta trying to show their ass and face in the same picture. If you eat this, you might as well just... Men ice cream eaters need to go to hell. When you ask him about his favorite game and he sends a picture of you. God damn.
Kenyan public was actually divided as to what they should think with regards to Ms. Velveen's murder. Many of the Kenyan public came out with comments like this. Many people felt that nothing needed to be done because Velveen, having been a younger girl dating an older man, was allegedly, according to them, a gold digger that deserved exactly what she got. You can see behind here the comments that Velveen got. People felt that she didn't deserve justice, that in fact this was the divine justice that all the women who wanted to date older men and didn't want to date young, broke quote unquote men, this is the kind of divine justice they needed. And in fact, they even advocated for her murder to just be closed. They didn't even they said this was not rape. They said this was consensual sex that was being had, and that this girl's back was broken in 3 and her cervix was ruptured, all because she deserved it. Saddest part about all of this is that Velveen has never gotten justice. Although initially Mr. Joseph had been arrested, he was released on bond, and yeah, he still roams free. And that is just where the case is today. Kenyans are still very polarizing about what we should think and what we should feel, and the conversation still regards whether or not she deserves justice because she was an immoral and loose woman.